And what ended up happening was, because they weren't blocking the sun's rays on the ocean with all the smog, the ocean temperature went way, way up. So their efforts to reduce global warming actually raised the ocean temperature in the area.
Watch and or listen while we tackle tough and sometimes taboo topics filmed live over drinks. This platform allows us to articulate our thoughts and challenge our beliefs. This is SipTalk. Grab a drink and enjoy.
All right, we are live. This is SipTalk, episode 287. My name is Justin DiGiulio, joined by James, the Boswell, philosopher, philanderer, philatelist, philanthropist, phlebotomist. Man, this gets harder every time. Man,
it's the same thing every time.
And that's why it gets harder, man. So today we are talking about shared reality and why it is seemingly impossible to share reality, and basically how, I don't know, I think maybe the trajectory that you and I both feel that we're on is our realities are, multiversing and spreading further and further apart. To summarize.
But it doesn't have to be.
Well, it doesn't have to be, but it certainly feels like it's going that way. And, we got a handful of talking points. Unfortunately, a lot of these are current events and a lot of these are political, but we will do our best to keep your attention with just the sheer reality in the conversation. And we're kind of trying not to get too polarized politically. Not that you and I exist at opposite ends of the I think we're pretty close. But
I would say we exist I was going to say we exist at opposite ends of the liberal spectrum.
Yeah, that's kind of what I would say. That's what I would say.
But the thing is, there are some people that are so far to the left of me.
Well, I'm sure that's the case, but and that's what's happening is things are shifting even further. We actually debated this topic a while before finally deciding to just continue the conversation on air because it was actually, we didn't know if we had enough to talk about, and then we kind of decided, it sounds like we do. But one of the things I said, I don't know if you remember this, that you and I may disagree on things, but usually where we disagree is where we don't have the facts, where we don't have the knowledge or the data. And then we kind of agree that our perspectives are different. But if we had more data or more information, then we could easily sway the other person's opinion immediately by filling in that.
We rarely disagree about whether or not something happened or how it happened.
So do you want to just, and I'll throw it on the screen. Do you want to lead with the photo that sparked the topic idea for you?
Well, I mean, that's the photo isn't what sparked the topic for me, but it's something that I think we could open with. What sparked the topic for me is today, Jack Smith, who was the special prosecutor appointed in 2022 to investigate Trump and election interference, and eventually Trump and withholding or retaining classified documents. He gave testimony today, public in Congress, and I read some articles kind of summarizing some key points from his testimony. And what I came away from that was we just can't agree on a version of reality, because you can have interpretations of what something means or why something is more or less important than something else. But when I was reading the article, I was people just are not able to agree on what reality is. So we'll get back to that.
The example that I was going to give was that the what I see as the color red may not be in fact exactly how you experience and see the color red. However, that's not really the disconnect that we're talking about now. It's much different than that. You're on the same page with me here?
Well, it's, if there's a wall that's red, we can both point to it and say that's red. Now, what I'm perceiving as red, you might actually perceive as yellow. Your red might look like my yellow, but we have no way. I can never see what you see, but we can both agree that that's a red to me and that's a red to you. We agree it's red.
And what we're saying is that we have many people looking at the same wall and not agreeing on the color.
Right.
And I think, I don't know a better way to drive that point home, but I'm hoping whoever's listening to us can make sense out of it, is that we have people presented with the same facts and they are just vastly off on what they believe to be the reality.
Yeah. So let's start with
And
the
we're
AI
going to
image.
hang on because yeah, we're sorry. Well, I was going to say what we're going to also get into is the manipulation of fact. So we can start with this AI image.
Yeah,
Give me
because
a second to put it on the screen, but you're going to want to if you're listening to us, you're going to want to go to the YouTube version of this and watch us. And if you're watching us, you're going to want to just look harder.
yeah, because like I started thinking about our inability as a people to be able to just agree upon facts. And the first thing I thought was like, as AI gets better, this problem is only going to get exponentially worse because AI, as it stands right now, still makes mistakes that are pretty spottable, but eventually it's not. And then we're just going to have like people able to like put in a prompt to an AI and generate something that looks like it's real and looks like it really happened, and it didn't. But
Well, so
here's
here we
yeah.
got it. It says husband's mom sent us this photo of the mudslides in San Bernardino. We are convinced it's AI, but the family refuses to believe it.
So I want you guys who can look at this picture when you first look at it, and if you look at it for just 5 seconds, do you think it's real? Because my answer would be, yeah, it looks real.
Yeah, at first I'll do an even bigger zoom here. Um, it looks. I mean, you have no reason to really believe that it would be fake. You would just see it and say, "Wow, that's bad." But when you start looking at it,
There's all sorts of problems. Let's start with the car that's in the top there, that like
this
black
one here,
car.
okay.
Yeah. Like when you look at it, and you need to zoom in, but when you look at it, like
Oh, we can get a deeper zoom here. Yeah,
yeah,
that's okay.
that's a like it doesn't look like a car now. It looks like what a 4-year-old would draw a car as.
Yeah, and the thing is that if this was an actual picture, it wouldn't look like that. You know,
The car wouldn't be clean for one,
the car is clean. It's entirely all above the mud and the dirt, whereas the house looks like it's possibly submerged to the second floor.
but also just like the roof of the car doesn't look like a roof. The trunk doesn't look like a trunk of a car at all. And like if you go up to the two houses that are like that car is pointing to,
Yeah, let's go over
so
to.
like these two houses, nobody builds houses that close
Well, the
in a
argument
suburban
could be maybe
neighborhood like this.
they slammed into each other or something like that.
Yeah,
But it seems like that's. I mean, you can kind of get a lay of the land from the streets here,
it's
and it's pretty clear that these houses like didn't slide. You can see there's a tree behind it.
yeah.
Uh,
So like nobody would build houses that close,
but the thing is, you and I now you know something initially looked like.
or even that car on the very bottom.
Well,
Like
this
if
was
you
the
look
first
at
one.
it,
This is the first one that I saw where it looks like it's the front of the car, but then you have this trunk or hood or something. Now it looks like
like an air
a
intake on a
van.
van,
Yeah, to me, it looked like the back of a Volkswagen Beetle. Um,
but it doesn't look like a car at all.
yeah, I mean,
It doesn't look like a vehicle because if it's a van or whatever, but it doesn't look like any vehicle that's ever been made.
the way that your eyes work is they just kind of they fill in the gaps most of the time, and so until you actually start looking at it, you don't actually realize how just weird it is. And it also looks like there's like flowing water happening in the mud here, kind of like it looks like it's actually flowing. And there's some waves in here.
But even like that house that's kind of in the center of the frame, when you actually look at it, it doesn't look like a house. And the house at the bottom part of the frame, like if you look at like the way that the roof is, like yeah, there, like that roof makes no sense.
But yeah, everything about it is so. But the point, I think the point with this one is that most people aren't going to be doing this kind of deep dive, zoom in, deconstructing the vehicles and the roof lines and the power lines and the cleanliness of the cars. They're just going to look at this picture and be like, damn, it's really, really bad over there.
Mhm.
It's really bad. Well, very few people would even be thinking, I don't know, can I send money or something?
Right. So like when I first looked at this image, it took me probably 20 or 30 seconds to really like pick out the details as to like why it was bad. And most people aren't going to do that. And it's very easy to just look at that and they're like, wow, I didn't realize how bad it was there. And that's now my reality.
But that's the reality that a lot of people are seeing day in and day out, and not just. I mean, this is a generic example, and we're going to break down a handful of other examples. But this is just a point that AI is exacerbating the issue, and that it's only going to get worse. So we're talking about this now, kind of in the hopes that anybody that hears us will just kind of employ critical thinking, and I mean, I think that's just kind of like our Hail Mary to anybody who's listening to continue to use critical thinking. And on that note, for you to continue to watch and or hear us, you should subscribe. Go to YouTube, subscribe to SipTalk Podcast. Go to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and subscribe. So we get to see you again, or you get to see us again. But same thing. All right. What else you have here on
I'm
your
just
on
gonna
your
go down
agenda?
the list, and like this one's topical because
Well,
tonight's
you're talking about the weather.
yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So it's January 22nd, 2026, and over the next couple days, there's going to be this really big winter storm that's going to like bring snow and ice to like pretty far south, like maybe as far south as like Houston, right? And those are places that rarely get anything frozen. And it's probably going to track like kind of north and east, and like you're probably going to see snow in like DC. And I guarantee you that sometime in the next week, you're going to have some politician hold up a snowball in Houston, Texas, or whatever, and say, "Huh?
I was gonna say it's gonna be somewhere, yeah.
Somewhere that almost never gets snow,
But
and they're going to hold up this snowball."
Houston's a pretty liberal city, so kind of lousy example. But
It doesn't matter. Like it could be Tulsa, Oklahoma.
there you go. All right.
All right, someone's going to hold up a snowball in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and Tulsa's more likely to get snow than Houston, so like that's a better example, anyways. And they're going to say, "How can climate change be real if I'm in Tulsa, we never get snow, and here's snow. Like, how's the globe warming?"
Well, I think what you meant to say is how is global warming real if things are cooling off. What you said is how has climate change happened? This hasn't happened ever before. but the statement could still be the same, and the people that are climate change deniers
yeah,
are going to side with him and say, "Yeah, you're right,"
and it's just
because they're
like,
not thinking. Because they're not thinking.
well, it's like the reality is like climate change is real and it's happening now. Like there's the whole like, and this is where like you've got fake reality, and then you've got a room for good faith debate, and this pattern is gonna repeat, which is like the reality is climate change is happening. The fake reality is climate change isn't happening. The area for good faith debate is climate change is happening. How bad is it going to be? How much is it actually happening?
How
And
responsible are we, and how much
and
control do we have over that?
right, and you can have good faith debates about those things. But like to say climate change isn't even happening, like you've got people that are out there saying that,
But
and
the type of
that's not the
conversations
reality.
that you and I have are kind of on the merits of, is the globe naturally warming because of the cycle? Are humans really at play, or are some of our efforts actually going to cause more global warming? But not it's not happening because it's 12 degrees cooler this week in X city,
Yeah,
and there's no way it's possible.
and I would go to say like humans are causing climate change, and the question is like how much of it are how bad is it, and what can we do about it? Because like the reality is like you can look at the graphs and see like once we started like all this industry and burning fossil fuels and coal and wood and everything else, like you can see CO2 levels go up, and you can very closely track the CO2 levels as they go up and see that temperature goes up.
You know
So
what?
like we are connected to it. The question is what can we do about it?
I know we got to change to the next topic here, but just on that, and this is a scary thing to think about. I heard about this kind of major shipment corridor across the ocean somewhere, and they basically stopped all the ships because there was just quantifiably way too much smog and fossil fuels being burnt in that area, and they found a cheaper way to do this or something. I don't know exactly how they remedied it, but all of a sudden the ocean temperatures in that area went way up. And what ended up happening was because they weren't blocking the sun's rays on the ocean with all the smog, the ocean temperature went way up. So their efforts to reduce global warming actually raised the ocean temperature in the area.
Yeah, but you've got in that particular case, you might be looking at like very small effects of like just the first couple meters of ocean being warmer, and like all that smog is going to cause the overall temperature of the globe to raise. And like if you talk about
Well,
even like a
and this is
thousand square miles that are 3 degrees warmer on the surface versus the entire globe being zero point 0.1 degrees warmer, the amount of energy that requires is so vastly different.
well, but that's where you and I break down the conversation. Then we start pulling articles and looking at data. If we are on different sides of,
Yeah. And,
but
and that would be
that's
one
how
where
we
like
have
the
this
first thing I'd want to
conversation.
do is I'd want to look and be like, okay, so they shut down this shipping channel and the ocean temperatures got warmer there. Okay, did this happen?
But
Let's
also
look
very
at and
clearly,
and why.
I have no fucking idea what I'm talking about. It's just some shit that I heard, right?
Right,
So
but like
the
I would
first thing
want
I
to
would do would
really
be
look
go
it
and
up and
find
see
it.
like, okay, I heard this thing. Is it true? And
So
if
all
it's
right,
true, let's learn about how it could be
all
true.
right, get to your more political.
All right, next one. So like you can look at again like we're not living in a shared reality where like we all saw the videos of what happened on January 6th.
That was a wild. I was watching it live in my office, and I just remember having my jaw on the floor, going, I cannot believe that this mob of people is actually doing this," and then thinking like somebody might actually die, and
And
then
several people did.
well, but
At minimum, 2 people died on that day.
as a result, ultimately, of what happened. I'm not arguing with you on that, but yeah, as ultimately as a result. But it's not like somebody was stabbed and there was a massive brawl. It was a little more. The reasoning was a little more nuanced, but it happened. People died, and it was really really scary. But I just remember watching the thing going, and even watching Trump just like not make any statements, and like everybody saying this guy should probably say something.
Well,
Like,
then at like 5 o'clock, he says like, "Go home, we love you."
yeah, it was a really strange day. And I was I was watching all the networks, but now you hear different stories about it.
You hear
Notably,
Trump saying it was a day of love. You hear some Congress people saying it wasn't that different from like a large sightseeing group.
it wasn't that different than a large sightseeing group, and it was a day of love. They could have said a day of passion. I would buy that over a day of love.
That's technically correct.
Yeah, but just the spin that's being put on that.
But it's trying to divorce what they want the reality to be from what reality actually was. And I will say and this is very much connected, like when it comes to like Trump and many others claiming that the 2020 election was fraudulent or stolen, and it just wasn't. Like it's trying to create a false reality where the reason he lost the 2020 election was because it was stolen from him, and like an innumerable amount of recounts and audits and court cases have all failed to find any fraud whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean,
And of the very small amount of like individual voter fraud, where we're talking about in a country with millions of votes, we're talking about between like 5 and 30 votes, not 5 and 30 million, 5 and 30. And like a lot of those I've seen were actually like GOP people, like registered Republicans that were voting twice or voting for somebody who died.
yeah,
So
but
like
it's
of the voter fraud that did exist, a lot of it was committed by GOP, but I'm not even concerned about that because like it was at most like 30 people. Like that just doesn't swing an election.
yeah. Well, I think in a nation like ours to have the voting system that we have, it's pretty antiquated, and it's going to need some. We're holding on to just a really antiquated way of doing things. You
That's a
want to?
separate discussion though.
Yeah, exactly. And did you ever see the video where it's the white guy in Harlem saying, "Hey," and he's talking to black people, saying, "Hey, we heard, black people can't use computers and can't get to, um, can't get driver's licenses and things." And then he goes and interviews white people, and the white people are all like, "Well, it's black people can't get to computers, and it's difficult for them. They can't go to the DMV." And the black people are hearing this, they're going, "That's the wildest thing. Like that's stupid." Um, but what they should have done is they should have done the same thing in like rural Georgia or something. That would have been interesting. But did you see this video?
No.
I'll find it and send it to you. All right, next one.
All right, this is the one that you and I had like probably talked about for 10 minutes, which is the ICE shooting of Renee Good in Minneapolis. And there's multiple videos of of various angles.
It's wild that there's like 4 to 6 videos of different angles of the exact same incident.
But like
We're certainly in the future
the
now.
entire thing is on video, and like there's no skips or anything else. You can watch the entire thing from start to finish, and
But
like
you also had heard different things than what I
that's
was telling you.
also because I personally refuse to watch it because I don't like watching videos where people die.
Yeah, I don't either. I hate that shit.
And so I'm not. I refuse to watch it.
But there's two.
I don't want to subject myself to like basically
watching someone be assassinated. No, it's
Right.
like watching somebody be beheaded or something. That's
Yeah, I don't want to watch that. Like
no, nobody should have to watch that, and that I really think that shouldn't be on the internet. But we're not going to go there. So look, there's only 2 schools of thought on this, and there is she tried to run him over and he shot for rightfully so, or he was in no danger. She didn't try to run him over, and he shot her unjustly. And what you had said that you actually heard that she was going in reverse when she was shot, which is obviously my guess is a more liberal accounting of it. But what I was telling you was I looked at it like frame by frame, and I basically see what happened. She wasn't trying to hit the guy; she was trying to get away. he probably mistakenly thought that she was trying to run him over and instinctively reached for his gun to shoot her as if that was the right self-defense. And he was wrong.
And
Although so was she, when she's being confronted by officers and she's not giving them the respect that they deserve. Now, you wouldn't think that that would get you shot, but that's why you have to be very careful in those situations.
And where the shared reality breaks down is mostly in the response that you saw from the White House, like in the day afterwards, where they called her unhinged and a domestic terrorist. And if you and
Like in my recount, what I told you from watching it was not at all the case. I didn't mention anything that she was being extreme.
I didn't say you did.
No, I know. What I'm saying is that you were presenting both sides of this, and I'm just defending the conversation that you and I just had.
And the conversation that you and I had, which I think would fall under the umbrella of good faith debate, is okay. She shouldn't have been shot. Should there be consequences for the officer that shot him? And there's a debate that can be had there.
And that was a conversation that you and I were having. But not she was unhinged and he was right.
Right.
And
but the idea that she was a domestic terrorist and
he was right.
and acting erratically. Because like if you watch, like, the last thing that she said to him was, "I'm not mad at you, bro." So like that, I can think of few things. Like, I don't see how you could ever construe that as threatening.
Well, I don't know. It's just crazy how it's so divisive. And
if I'm going to run somebody over, I'm not saying I'm not mad at you, bro.
Well, all right. Did you cover these congressional hearings? Yeah.
More or less.
Okay.
I watched some of the hearings live, and I just couldn't stand to listen to it because it was the Republicans just like debasing the entire exercise, and it was Democrats just loading on praise left and right. And I don't mean like politically. I'm just like, praise this, praise that, and it's like, dude, the guy is a prosecutor. He was assigned to do a job. He did his job. He's here to answer questions about the job that he did. Like, he doesn't deserve praise or condemnation. He does deserve scrutiny because he's a public official, and like, we have the right to question people about the jobs that they did. But like, you don't praise or criticize like somebody for doing their job. You just say like, "Hey, did you do your job correctly?" And then they provide evidence to back up that they did. And so I couldn't bear to watch it because it was just such a like brazenly political and toxic affair.
I mean, yeah. All right, you got next here, classified documents.
Classified documents.
How deep you wanted to dig into that?
I mean, it's related to Jack Smith, and it's like, well, so one of the cases that Jack Smith was trying Trump for was the willful retention of classified documents after he left office. And the law is really clear about that, which is if you're a private citizen, you don't get to keep classified documents. And they found many documents at his place in Florida. There's pictures of them, and the whole question, and like the where the shared reality breaks down is again coming from like Trump supporters saying like he had the right to keep them, or they were planted there, or they weren't really classified, or anything like that. And like, all of that's just untrue. It's just demonstrably untrue.
Well, I mean, they're not having the right conversation about it. That's the thing. Let's move on to vaccines.
Okay, here's another one. Like, so the question is like, are vaccines dangerous? No.
I mean, here's the thing: is you got to have science on the other side, and you can't allege that there's science and not be able to produce the science.
Right, but the people on the side of the vaccines, which is the vast, like 99.9% of doctors, can provide like enough studies to fill my entire bedroom floor to ceiling with evidence that vaccines works. Princess Solace is hello.
I think the issue with the vaccines is basically what happened in 2020, where you were requiring 3-year-olds to get vaccines for something that was going to have no effect on them, and it was again just the massive mishandling of the coronavirus in total, and then this is just kind of the pendulum swinging back.
Well, I would say that
I would say the Democrats brought that on themselves.
Well, I would say when it comes to vaccines, that you already had 5 to 10 years at least of very loud people complaining about vaccines. Like, and this is before coronavirus started.
But now they have bigger platforms,
right?
And they have a greater reach. and more community in that. And now we're dealing with that. And again, the conversation is not happening in a shared reality. The anti-vaccine and the pro-vaccine.
The anti-vaccine crowd has no data to support any of their conclusions.
All right, hit this next one, because this is almost a funny one.
Okay, yeah. So, like, when it comes to shared reality, like,
Okay,
you would think that if we lived in a shared reality, we could all say slavery bad, right?
yeah, I don't know the full context on this one. I do remember hearing it, and it was funny, and that's that the Florida curriculum making the claim that slavery benefited slaves by giving them opportunity to learn marketable skills.
Yeah,
Now, I will say that's that's
yeah. Like, they
taking.
got to learn how to become like blacksmiths and tailors and other stuff.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, you're not. They didn't get the opportunity. They were forced to do so. But it's like making the same opportunity that, like, they were kept alive because they were fed. So they should, so they benefited from being fed.
Yeah, and, like, they had and like they were like in great physical fitness because of all the exercise they were getting every day.
It's just, yeah. I mean, that's like saying, it was really, some of these guys that were slaves and had to row the boats across the seas. They got great biceps, and they could have gone on to become Olympic champions or something. It's just
Yeah.
taking the context sideways.
It's all to delegitimize people trying to say, like, yo, like, slavery was bad and we should teach it, because ultimately it comes down to, like, you can trace this to white nationalism of, like, white nationalists don't want to, like, acknowledge that we have a problem with racism in this country, and it traces back to our roots. And if you can, and it's because slavery is bad. But if you can make slavery seem less bad, then racism isn't as much of a problem, and you can ignore that it exists and continue on with your terrible ideology of white nationalism.
Well, it's just, I mean, it's just providing really some false narrative that you could use for just not the right reasons. Let me hit
Yeah.
Bart trivia from last week, because this was a good one. I don't know if we even talked about it. I don't know if I gave you the opportunity to guess it. But during a world fair, a group of scientists were exhibiting their advances in genetic engineering. They were crossbreeds of various bulls, cows, other domestic farm animals. Featured in one exhibit were several oversized prize turkeys. One afternoon during the show, this woman walked up to the exhibit. She shot all of the turkeys and then ran out of the building. Although many people knew who she was, nobody made an attempt to stop her. Why not? Any guesses on this one?
She was Annie Oakley, and it was a shooting competition.
Uh, she was a journalist, a photographer, and she was shooting the turkeys for her article. And of course, she only ran out because she was in a hurry. Visit SipTalkPodcast.com. Answer this week's Bart Trivia question. Stay tuned to the third half of our show, and we will give you this week's new Bart Trivia question for your chance to win some cool bar merch, some pint glasses, some dog shirts, a beach towel. I don't know.
To borrow some philosophical parlance, that last week's riddle or such would have been what is called equivocation.
Shed some light on that.
Deliberately using the wrong definition of a word. So, like, if a word can mean multiple things, you use that word in a context with the intent to mislead.
Oh, well, you were misled. That's part of trivia. Yeah, that's equivocation for you, James. All right. So is this Iowa thing relatively recent? Because I hadn't heard about this.
Yeah, I saw the article earlier today because I was reading the news, and yeah, it was an Iowa woman who had a fatal pregnancy. So, like, she wanted to carry the pregnancy to term, but, like, something happened, and, like, the baby died while it was still inside her. So she goes to the hospital to try and get care, and because the laws in Iowa are so restrictive, the doctors are like, we can't do anything for you. Like, you're gonna need to go home and, like, wait until, like, it passes on its own or whatever. And she and like, in a functioning society that protected, like, rights to abortion, like, she would have been able to get this treated and she would have been fine. But instead, it, like, really threatened her health, and she went to the news complaining about this, saying, like, I don't know why they wouldn't treat me, and it's because the laws prevented it. And like, a lot of the commenters are like, yo, you got what you voted for, because she in the interview with the news teams, like, I voted conservative.
Yeah. Well, providing that's fact, and she said that, that's really stupid. And I think that there are more cases like that should have the spotlight drawn to them so that people can see what they actually voted into place
Well,
with
and
these abortion laws.
where the shared reality comes into is like this person believed that she would still be able to get an abortion to treat this because like the politicians that were passing these abortion bans told people you'll still be able to get the kind of care that you need, and and so like people believe that like some abortions weren't abortions, and like it's you're not
But
living in reality where like
exactly. But also the reality isn't anti-abortion and pro-abortion. It's anti-abortion and a more nuanced stance that sometimes an abortion is necessary. But most people generally don't want abortions. They don't want to be put in the position where they need an abortion. You may want an abortion once you're in that situation, but it's no, most people aren't
do you know any
planning.
women that have had an abortion?
Yes.
And
Are any of them proud of it and say, man, I could use another? No. So
because I do too, and based it like on the conversations that I've had with them, not a single one of them was like, "That was a fun experience."
it's like Pringles, once you have one, you
Yeah,
keep going.
like every single like all of them were just like, "Yeah, I would not want to go through that again. I didn't enjoy anything about the experience, but it was something that I had to do."
Yeah, and you're in the South, so maybe that would be more understandable there. But I'm in New York City, and that's pretty much as liberal as it gets for this country. And nobody I know in New York City is saying, "Yeah, I'd love some more.
Yeah.
This is the best tool to deal with a great situation." But I think that's kind of how it's understood on the other side, which I don't know. It's really shitty. Let's hit the next one here.
Yeah, all right. So let's go to the next one because this one got me really riled up. Like probably like 2 years ago now. But I was having a conversation with a person that I play pool with, and he was talking about immigrants committing crimes in this country, and saying that like immigration brings higher crime rates to this country. And I said, I don't think that's true. And I said, but let's look it up. And so we did, and it turned out that like undocumented immigrants commit crimes at a much lower rate than U.S. citizens, but like something like 40 or 50% less.
So per capita.
Yeah, per capita, they commit 40 to 50% less crimes than U.S. citizens. It was like 1,500 per 100,000 versus like 800.
Okay, well, I got lowering offending rates. Immigrants are significantly less likely to be incarcerated or convicted of crimes when compared to U.S. born citizens. 2023 data showed that per 100,000 native born Americans were incarcerated at a rate of.
Can you just share the graphic?
Let me throw it on the. Let me share the screen here so we can all see it. All right, double clicking doesn't work. My mistake here. That might be too slow.
No, there's a link in the in our script.
Oh, you have one?
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me. Here.
It's I think on like the second page.
This is a government website.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let me try to make this nice and big and too big.
Too big. Yeah. So scroll down to like the second page.
My numbers were easier to digest, but here we got a chart.
All right, so I got it a little bit wrong, but like, so you can see U.S. citizens, documented immigrants, and undocumented immigrants, and my 40 to 50% less is pretty much correct.
Yeah, that is correct. Although these numbers go up to 2018, so but it sounds like it's still U.S. citizens per. Again, this is per 100,000 people. So
yeah. But so we were having this discussion, and I pulled up a study that had very similar numbers. It wasn't this exact study, but it was numbers that were very similar to this. And instead of saying, "Oh, I didn't realize that like the numbers were actually lower than I thought," it was, "Oh, well, you just can't trust the statistics. You can make numbers like say whatever you want." And that's when I was just like, "All right, we can't have this conversation anymore because we can't even agree on a reality." Which is the reality. Like you can say, "Hey, I don't want to have as many immigrants come into this country for a variety of reasons," and we can have that debate.
Well, here's
you're
the
going
thing:
to say
guys...
because they're bringing crime here, and I show you that they're not bringing crime here, and you just say, "I'm not going to acknowledge the fact that you just showed me."
Well, no, it would then be on him to demonstrate his data and find some source,
which you could not.
Yeah, and that's. And I'm not saying that it's not out there, but what I'm saying is that that's how an educated conversation goes. You have a disagreement. One person provides evidence. The other person then needs to provide some type of evidence to continue to defend their,
I will go back to like Hitchens' razor. That which can be asserted without evidence can be dismissed without evidence. So he provided no evidence. I did.
All right, let's hit the Instagram models and social media posturing.
Yeah. This is a much lighter topic, but
Well, it's less political, and I guess maybe if anybody is still staying tuned, they they enjoyed that politics. So let's get into something a little less political here.
so much of what you see online and Instagram and social media and stuff is just not real. Like with Instagram models, either like paying a couple $100 for like a photo shoot on a private jet to make it look like they're flying around the world on a private jet, or doing all sorts of like alterations and filters to their photos to like make their skin smoother or make themselves look thinner or their butts
It,
bigger or whatever
but
else.
it's not.
And
It's not. It's what is it for? Because the way that I think of it is you got to meet people in person, and they're and who I don't know. I mean, I guess I know the answer. It's just it's for the likes, and it's for I don't know, the follows. I get that, but me, like I will clean up before I post pictures or have pictures taken. I mean, maybe not the room that I'm in. It's definitely a mess right now. But I will. But I'm not going to add filters and just change the reality, and especially because like there's people who know me. Like it's just like, oh yeah, like who are you hiding from? But the problem with this is that other people see this and believe that it is reality, and
well,
then
it's the
believe
same
that
thing with like when people post about like how great their lives are going on Facebook or anything else. Like they're you're not like I've used this example before. Is like if you're following, let's say, 500 people on Facebook or whatever, like think about last year for you, and like, think about every single one of your days and just give it like a 1 to 10 rating, right? With 1 being the worst and 10 being like a great day, like a
I'd
fantastic
say
day,
most of
right?
them are like threes to sixes.
That
Okay,
yeah.
now which ones did I post online, or would I post online? Maybe I think I posted once last year, but maybe 5 to 7 days.
So
Okay. Now, let's say that's the average. I know where you're going with this. Let's say that's the average amongst your friends, and they're going to post on average. You have your 500 friends that you follow, or people that you follow, and they're going to also post their best 5 or 6 days.
yeah, so like the people are going to post their days that are eights, nines, and tens.
So what you're not seeing everybody's average day. What you're seeing is
One
your
person's 9,
500
and then a
friends
different
times
person's 9.
your 500 friends times their top 5 or 6 days. So you're seeing 3,009 and 10 level days, and each day that you're seeing one of these great days, you're just comparing it to your 3 to 6 day.
Yeah, you're just like my day was a 4, and everybody else out here is having eights, nines, and tens like every day, and
But the thing is,
I'm just stuck at
I
3.7.
the way that I look at that, though, I mean, to me, and the way that I mean, it's so easily digestible to me because I, I'm just like, all right, like you went on vacation. I went on vacation too. I didn't put any pictures online. Um, or you're at some event and you're all standing up having pictures taken of you. Like that's kind of awkward and it's fucking annoying. Just go enjoy the event.
Mhm.
Um,
Like if you're at a concert and like you're watching the concert through your phone as you're recording it,
I
like
mean, it's like videotaping fucking fireworks. Have you ever gone back and watched your video of the fireworks? I will say, as some of this technology gets better, and you can like put yourself back into a virtual reality environment, that might be kind of cool. But there's also the way. But I'll tell you something because I did this last year for Christmas, and I did a really good job with my phone. And then I tried it again this Christmas with you may recognize this actually with a video camera with an actual cassette tape in it, is recording like a home video style. And because I get a couple of VHS videos from when I was a kid, and it's way different the way things were recorded back then and the way they are now. What happens is today everybody shoots a 3 or 4 second video and then never watches them again. Whereas back then you shot 4 to 6 minutes a pop on VHS, and it's much more watchable. Does that make sense?
well, you also had to watch all 4 to 6 minutes because like fast forwarding was
There was no
annoying and
yeah,
didn't work very
exactly.
well. You
But
couldn't just like pull and like skip like minutes at a time with just a click.
well, the thing is, you lose so much narrative when you're doing 30 seconds here, 40 seconds there, or even less. 6 seconds here, 2 seconds there, which is how we record things on our phones. So it's way different. That was just a tangent that I went on about
But
people taking videos of fireworks, which is
well,
fucking annoying.
I just look at like social media and stuff again is just it's distorting reality and making you believe that your reality is not shared by others. And like it's easy to remind yourself that like, hey, what I'm seeing here isn't real, but like that's something that you have to do actively. And a lot of like social media is ingested semi passively, where like you're just seeing it, and like you need to actively remind yourself of like, this isn't real.
Well, just like that,
Because
just like that mudslide photo that we talked about, you would have no reason when scrolling across that to critically think and just really, really look at it. You would just look at it and say, "Oh man, the mudslides were really, really bad."
yeah,
It's
and then five
you're not,
seconds later, next.
yeah, you're not less than 5 seconds later, but that part of your brain with the critical thinking is just not being activated because of how we digest things now. I think if you looked at it for 5 seconds, you might actually realize something's a little bit wrong with it. All right,
Maybe.
you want to hit some questions?
Well, I guess like, why do you think this is that like I really feel like it's been a problem for a while, but it feels like it's really worsened in the last decade as to like why we're having such a hard time being able to agree on just basic facts.
Well, I mean, to me, the answer comes pretty easily because we all exist in our confirmation biased realities. So when I log on to Twitter or Instagram or even Google, and you log on to Twitter and Instagram or Google or wherever it is that you log into, that's your hub for your news and media. What you experience is completely different than what I
Oh, in
experience.
terms of like
And
recommended
and
articles or
and of
like
course,
recommended videos on the YouTube.
yeah, but of course, who I follow and what's recommended to me, from my perspective, are going to be credible, trusted sources, or at least, even if I don't believe that they are, they're going to appear that way from somebody who's not using critical thinking. And your threshold to start critically thinking drops the more you kind of see the same sources. And you really have to have like a spidey sense for like this may not exactly seem legit. And I mean, now with all this AI generated bullshit slop of AI written articles and AI images, to me, it's becoming really easy to detect those things. But also, AI is getting way better.
Well,
So
I would
so
also say that like
yeah,
absorbing every piece of media that you encounter on a given day, like, and absorbing it and then having to apply some level of critical thinking, that gets exhausting really fast.
yeah, but it's like that's why as you get older, time you've heard this theory, time seems to go by faster, is because your brain fills in the gaps and records fewer memories of the actual finite details. Whereas when you're a child, everything is new to you.
Hmm.
They also say that like time will slow down when you start having new experiences. So when you go somewhere new or try new foods or speak different languages or meet new people, things feel like they take a little bit longer.
Yep.
And that's because your brain is actually recording more details. But very seldomly are you actually looking at the finite details of anything. Your brain is in coast mode. Uh,
Right. And so to switch out of neutral and put it into gear, if you're trying to do that every single day, like that's tough.
but also, if you do have that spidey sense for bullshit and fake and AI generated content, that you may even have a great bullshit or AI meter, but it's going to become tougher and tougher to detect those
I
things.
mean, I'll tell you, I would grade myself pretty high on my bullshit detection abilities, and there's times that stuff slips by me.
And imagine the stuff that, well, and that's, I mean, I think you're just accounting for a margin of error, but there's probably even more. There's probably even more than
I'm
you
talking
realize.
about the stuff that I eventually realized slipped by me.
Oh yeah, and I'm sure there's a ton that you don't realize. So I think it's actually going to become harder and harder. But what needs to happen is people need to break down their differences in opinions and just break down their, I don't know, disagreements. Just uh, I don't know, to want to learn more and find out more.
You know what I would say? Here's the first step: is a reversing of the order of operations, because I think a lot of people start from a conclusion that they want to reach and then build back from there, instead of the opposite, which is look at the series of facts and data that you have available to you and try and form a conclusion from it.
So
It's build data to support your conclusion, or build a conclusion that the data points to. You understand what I'm saying?
well, so here's the way that I kind of experience news and facts and just kind of life in general is I believe nothing until I see some version of proof, and then I still have operate within a certain margin of error. So there's certain, you're kind of always taking risks, unless you're an idiot and you don't realize that you're taking risks. But um, just like imagine you're driving down the road. You have to have a certain amount of trust that nobody's going to drive over the line and drive into you. But the entire time you're driving down the road, you should be looking out for that, and you should be looking out for signs. And if you see a little sign and you see something going on ahead, yeah, your spidey sense should really peak, and you need to like really be vigilant at that moment. But I think to just assume that nobody's ever going to cross that line is is a really dumb way to drive. Yet I could guarantee most people get behind the wheel, and it never occurs to them that in any split moment somebody could sneeze and just veer into them and have a head-on collision. That's the end of both of you.
I'll tell you, having like ever since getting my motorcycle, like my driving has improved because like the motorcycle is like anything that could go wrong is probably going to kill you on a motorcycle. Whereas like it's just going to be a bad day most of the time in your car. And so like, but like that
Depending
approach,
on speed.
yeah, like
But
I'm
no,
not
the
saying
vigilance of constantly being aware.
is like, yeah, having ridden the motorcycle around Charleston where people don't pay attention at all. It's like I have to assume that everyone is actively trying to kill me.
Yes, and of course you can't not function and not get on the motorcycle, or not function in life because that's a fear. But you just have to kind of put up with a certain amount of like gray space.
Yeah,
But
like
you
that,
have to
like
constantly be
now that
aware.
now when I get in my car, like there's an element of that mentality that persists, even though I'm safer in my car than I would be on my motorcycle, because it's still just a skill that like motorcycling has taught me more.
Yeah, well, we'll talk more about that off the air. Because any other questions we have here? Let's see.
The only I just like my suggestions for like what we can do, like two things that we can do to combat this is we need to be putting more resources into education, and we need to be putting more resources specifically into teaching critical thinking and analysis skills.
Yeah, I would say that's a really big one. But the problem is also education is so fucking segmented now
Well,
because there's
yeah,
so much political agenda with the education system.
yeah, I could do a whole topic on like the whole like we just don't exist in a shared reality when it comes to education either. But like the other thing I have is like I think that there needs to be more societal shame for lying and deceiving people.
Yeah, but then figuring out what's the lie and what's the deception is also.
Well, I'll give you an example from like just like this past week is Eric Adams, as soon as he's out of office, immediately goes out and starts hawking a New York City crypto coin.
I didn't hear that. I'm just surprised I haven't heard that. Oh my
It's
God.
like, why are we not shaming these people and saying like and punishing people for obvious deception? Which I would
Oh,
say is like 99.9% of anything crypto related. That's just like that's me hating on crypto.
yeah, I know that, but interesting. Uh,
I'll send you the link. It's funny.
yeah, I mean, just some of the notes we have here. Institutions are no longer referees of reality. They're players with agendas. Uh,
Yeah.
uh, let's see. Conspiracy thinking thrives because people are not because people are irrational, but because trust in shared authorities has collapsed. Yeah, and I mean, I will say, like the shared the problem is just the narrative you're getting from who we thought were authorities is so biased these days. That's why I've stopped listening to a lot of news because I can't I can't have that level of critical. It's exhausting to fucking listen to it. It pisses me off. I just want the news. Like give me the. I can't even listen to the fucking weather anymore. They're talking about these massive storm coming in and how we need to prepare and stock up on food. And it's fucking 2 or 3 inches of snow. And it was never purported to be a foot of snow. It was always 2 or 3 inches. But of course, they want you to be watching this.
Well, I mean, that's always existed.
But I feel like it's
No,
it's
because
gotten a
like
lot
think
worse.
about like and also
But
like we
sorry.
also grew up in upstate New York where like a foot of snow was like no big deal. Like sure we'd get out of school, but like it didn't really upend our lives because we
Shut
were
much
used to it.
down. Yeah.
But like I can tell you that if Charleston were to get 2 or 3 inches of snow, it would be apocalypse in the city until it melted. And
Well,
you know this.
yeah, no, but I think, yeah. Also, so I was upstate last weekend, and it had snowed on my way up, so it snowed down here and snowed up there. And you and I were on the phone, and we were talking about how I was like, oh, it looks like actually it's clearing up. You're like, oh yeah, there's a band that's all clear ahead of you, but it had previously snowed upstate, and then there was just snow on the ground the entire time I was there. That's how we grew up.
Yeah.
And some roads that we were on just had a couple inches of just packed snow on them, and people just drove around on them like normal. Um,
You drove a little slower, sure.
yeah, they drove a little bit slower.
But I
I
also
don't,
think about like what weather's relative, because like in Charleston in the summer, it regularly hits 95 degrees with like the dew point of like 85. It's ridiculous down here, and like that doesn't make news down here. People are just like, yeah, that's just what summer's like. But like if you go to like London and the temperature hits 83, like
yeah, there's like warnings to stay
yeah,
inside and stay cool. Um, all right. Well, I think we exhausted this topic. I'm sure there's some things in retrospect, especially when I'm editing this. I'm like, damn, we should have brought that up. But again, just to reiterate, oh, freaking bar trivia, critical thinking, for Christ's sake. All right, this week's bar trivia, episode 287. Clara Clatter was purchasing her new parrot. The salesman assured her that it would repeat any word it heard. About a week later, Clara returned the parrot, complaining it hadn't uttered a single word. Given that the salesperson had spoken the truth about the parrot's abilities, why wouldn't the bird talk? Go to SipTalkPodcast.com. Follow us on YouTube. Follow us on, where else are we? Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and answer the question, Bar. Answer the question, Bar. Answer the question on SipTalkPodcast.com. Clara Clatter was purchasing her new parrot. The salesman assured her that it would repeat any word it heard. About a week later, Clara returned with the parrot, complaining it hadn't uttered a single word. Given the salesperson had spoken the truth about the parrot's abilities, why wouldn't the bird talk?
I have a theory.
I'm sure it's pretty good, actually. So the thing is with this particular line of questions I've been using for the last few months, there's a certain way to think around them, most of them. But on that note, I will bid you adieu, and we'll see you in a week. Adios, everybody. New York City real estate agents, it's time to make the move. Keep 100% of your commission. Get access to hands-on agent support and New York City's best agent training, the Slingshot program. Online access to our Agent University and online on-demand video training program. All at DiGiulio. Contact info@DiGiulioGroup.com to make the move.